underway, the 57th all-time meeting between two teams. As you mentioned, Kelly, know one another well. Florida State won the first matchup this season in Tallahassee, 95-80. Both of these teams trying to snap mini skids and get back on track today. So Florida State off that tipped out of bounds will have the opening offensive possession. Coming off a loss to Duke that was their worst loss of the season by 42 on the road. Just never found a rhythm on this end. Opening possession, they go to their leading scorer, bit strong in the three-point attempts. For Georgia Tech, you look at their lineup, and a big missing piece today in that starting five is Caleb Blackshear, who would be starting, has started every game. Pull-up rattles around and down for Kara Dunn, who will need to have a big day today.
Kara Dunn, such an improved player for this Georgia Tech team, really coming into her own as a sophomore.
Brusna Augustinaita is in the starting lineup. Not a new task for her. She has started 15 games for this Georgia Tech team. Freshman from Lithuania, fittingly, she has the ball right now. Kelly, you're already seeing Georgia Tech slow down the pace a little bit here against a Florida State team that wants to run. You think this tempo could suit them better?
Florida State's one of the fastest teams in the country. They play pace and space. They want to get up and down. I think it benefits Georgia Tech to slow this game down a little bit. Georgia Tech still wants to run. They like to get up and down as well. But if this game's played more in the half court, to me, that benefits the Jackets.
Here they will try to perhaps run. Now slow it down after the miss from Ta'Niya Latson.
And it's instances like that right there where you might have numbers, but you decide to slow it up. Don't force it. If you have numbers, go. But if you don't, make it a slower game. I think that was well done by Georgia Tech.
That three took a minute to get down, but ultimately did. Florida State wants to try to take those threes. They weren't able to get them to drop. Just overall from the field, really struggled against Duke.
FSU wants layups and threes. They are into the analytics, the pace and space, as we've said, and Omaria Gordon has played so well for FSU. Just knocked down that three for the Noles.
Mid-range off the mark there. Juan Arenaz. Sarah Bajetti, such a good two-way player for this Florida State team. A nice shovel down low, but better read defensively.
That's a tough shot for Ta'Niya Latson. They want to get to the rim. That's not exactly a layup. Feels like FSU could have gotten a better shot. Even though you want the ball in Ta'Niya Latson's hands, that's a very tough attempt.
You got a foul call here on Florida State. Free throws coming up. Two really good experienced coaches in this matchup. There's Nell Fortner, the shoot around today. She said you got to bring your own magic to the mix. Tonie Morgan at the free throw line here. There's Brooke Wyckoff, Florida State alum, several years in the WNBA. When you're trying to bounce back from a loss as large as their last one was against Duke, mentally, how do you get re-engaged?
You got to forget that last game. That's something that Coach Wyckoff told me is they're just trying to put that one behind them. Don't even worry about it because they played so poorly in the second half. You can't take much from it anyway. Put it behind you, refocus for your next test.
Neither of these teams have been getting off to fast starts lately, so that was a question mark coming into today. Who could get off to the better start? Who could start off faster than they did in their last game?
That was a key for Coach Fortner. She wanted Georgia Tech to start fast, also because she knows FSU, their confidence isn't as high as it's been recently because of the three-game skid. So they want to punch them early, see if they can hurt that confidence.
The speed of Omaria Gordon out in transition off a tip.
All 5 of FSU's points coming from OMG, Omaria Gordon, former Florida High School State Player of the Year, a prolific scorer for the Noles.
I like the nickname, OMG.
So good, right?
So good. Juan Arenaz with a nice feed down low to a cutting Dunn. It's interesting because we talked to Nell Fortner earlier today, and she told us she wants to get Cara Dunn in more positions where she can cut to the rim like that.
says she's the best cutter on the team, which to me means high basketball IQ, knows where her teammates can find her.
Speaking of being the best at certain things, Ta'Niya Latson might be the best at getting to the rim today of anyone we have out on the floor.
We asked Coach Fortner, how do you slow down Ta'Niya Latson? And she was like, you really don't. You have to limit the players around her, but she can get to the rim almost at will no matter who's guarding her.
Just don't foul her is the
Right.
main goal. Georgia Tech at 13-7 on the season, 4-4 in conference play. With a win today, Kelly, they can surpass not only their overall win total from last year, but their conference win total from last year as well, just building up.
Already been a big turnaround for Georgia Tech from last year to this year. They have a very young core, lots of sophomores and freshmen. You've seen those players grow up, and you've seen the overall level of talent on this Georgia Tech team.
Tonie Morgan tried to whip a feed down low to Termise, who has checked in, the 6'6" forward for Georgia Tech. Couldn't find her. Ball back into the hands of Latson in Florida State. Timpson was calling for it. Latson took it instead and got an and one.
We're sitting near the FSU bench, and I'm hearing an assistant coach saying, take her, meaning Ta'Niya Latson, take the ball and go to the rim. That is your best offense most of the time if you're Florida State. Just look at the way she weaves through the defense and then the finish at the rim. What I love about Latson when she's attacking the rim, her head is always up and her eyes are always at the rim. She looks like she will not be prevented from scoring, and most of the time that is the case, Jason.
31 points per game against Georgia Tech the last 3 times she's faced them.
Absurd numbers.
There's Rusna Gustanita, again the player who was inserted into the starting lineup today. Termise is 3 off the mark, but she loves particularly that spot to take those threes. Here's Florida State's fast-paced, the space and play. 3 from Bajetti. Got a foul down low after that shot. Early 1-point lead for Florida State on the road. Expecting a potential tight one today between 2 teams that need a win.
It's bow time. Get fired up tonight.
Between Florida State and Georgia Tech this season. It was a win for Florida State in Tallahassee. They've won 4 in a row over Georgia Tech. It was 95-80. It was the ACC opener at the time. As usual, Ta'Niya Latson was on in that matchup. And they're trying to carry that over to today and get back on track. And it's interesting because if you're Florida State right now, at a situation where you're searching for confidence, coming off a 42-point loss, if there is a place to search, it's perhaps here of all places because you've beaten this Georgia Tech team 4 times in a row.
Exactly right. And the big difference between that first meeting just a month ago is that Kayla Blackshear is not on the floor for Georgia Tech with an injury, and she played great in that first matchup. So that's something that Georgia Tech will have to overcome. Probably not the worst matchup to not have a post player, considering FSU loves to play 4 guards around Michaela Timpson.
Here's one of the Georgia Tech guards, Tonie Morgan, getting the bucket. You mentioned Blackshear. She had 22 points in that first matchup. So we'll see how that affects Georgia Tech today. But like you said, kind of more of a 4-guard setup for both teams. Trading the lead so far in the early stages of this opening quarter. Gustanita with the task of guarding Latson. There's Omaria Gordon. She can shake and bake with the best of them as well. Couldn't get that to go. Rebound for Termise.
And one of the best characteristics for a team to have when playing Florida State is length on the perimeter. You're seeing that from Georgia Tech right now. You saw it from Duke in the previous matchup. Florida State's guards are not the biggest, as we have a tie ball here. They're not the biggest, so if you have some length on the wing with Gustanita, Tonie Morgan, Kara Dunn, that can help you in guarding the dribble penetration from the Noles.
See Nell Fortner there. Her group still kind of learning new things and how to play with each other. Got a group of young players that play key roles, but a group of players who have taken big jumps from year 1 to year 2 as well. Gustanita, she can get hot in a hurry. Came up short on the three there. Back comes Latson. Speaking of coming at you in a hurry, draws a foul.
Her first step is just ridiculous, Jason. That first step, when she starts to penetrate, when she starts her attack, there are very few players in the country, frankly, right there, that can stay with her on that first step when she starts going downhill and starts getting to the rim. And this is one of the best parts of her game, is getting to the free throw line. She puts so much stress on the other team. She's already drawn 3 fouls in this game, so that puts the other team in foul trouble. And then, of course, she gets to the line where she's an 86% free throw shooter.
What I take away from that is I wouldn't want to be in front of her.
If a coach told me, hey, you're guarding Ta'Niya Latson in this game, I might say, my ankle's hurt, okay? Yeah. Because I would not want to be guarding Ta'Niya Latson. It's one of the toughest jobs and toughest assignments in the country right now.
Has been really good in ACC play. A Florida State team that started 5-1 in ACC play, but have lost 3 in a row since then, now 5-4. Both teams still searching for a rhythm from long distance right now. And it was Turnage trying to turn the corner. Good job of the Noles to reset. Bajetti straight on 3, was online but off the mark. And it'll stick with Florida State.
You talked about FSU starting 5-1 in the league, but they've lost 3 straight, 0-3 in their last 3 games. I think defensively, there have been some issues for the Noles, and also just not hitting shots. Sarah Bajetti, she was an X factor in that week where FSU beat North Carolina and Virginia Tech. She has struggled in the last couple games. When she's not shooting well, FSU really hurts. And then you look at the field goal percentage versus Duke. That game to me was an anomaly, and that's what Coach Wyckoff told me at shoot-around today. They didn't play well. They got down in the second half, and the game got completely away from them. So they just have to find a way to bounce back, put that game behind them, and off to a pretty good start here, especially defensively, looking a bit better versus the Jackets.
Wyckoff said she was almost more disappointed in the Syracuse and Virginia losses, right, that are part of this 3-game losing streak right now.
The Syracuse game was a tough one. Went up to Syracuse, who, by the way, is a very good team in the top 25 in this league. Tough place to win. So this is a team, they're going through a lull right now, but plenty of time to get back on track this season.
Syracuse now 7-2 in ACC play. This is going to go back the other way to Florida State. Seminoles have 9 consecutive winning seasons in ACC play, dating back to the 2014-15 season. First halves have been a strong suit for Florida State when they've been good this year, but haven't gotten off to fast starts lately during this losing streak. Gave it away. 2 teams that are pretty clean with the basketball.
Great defense right there on Latson. Again, Georgia Tech, similar to what Duke did, using their length on Ta'Niya Latson. And what a board by Kara Dunn, one of the most improved players in this league.
Her 16 points per game, 9-point jump from last season as a freshman. Put in a lot of work in the offseason. There's the drive from Bajetti that you like to see for the Seminoles.
If you want to play the guard position for FSU, you have to be able to shoot, and you have to be very quick and able to get to the rim and have a quick first step. And not a lot of players possess both those qualities, but if you want to play at FSU, you got to have both.
Naredo got all the way to the cup that time, answering the drive from Bajetti. Naredo wears that guard on her elbow from an injury she suffered earlier this year. Is healthy now, though. Second effort for Florida State turns into yet another lead change in this opening quarter.
Sakiah White getting in on the action. FSU getting some production from their bench. That's something they haven't really had in their 3-game skid either.
Kelly, how about 7 lead changes so far?
This has been so back and forth. You can tell, like we mentioned in the open, these 2 teams, they're so familiar with each other. It's going to come down to execution and making plays down the stretch, which means you got to stay tuned for the whole game.
You got to. They called a moving screen there. Can definitely feel how much these teams want to get back in the win count today. teams that know each other so well. Florida State has won 4 in a row overall in the series. Georgia Tech coming off a loss to Virginia Tech on the road. That was a tough atmosphere to play in back at home. Nice athletic balance on that baseline from Naredo to keep it in bounds. And now the shot clock is off for potentially the final possession of the opening quarter.
Great defense by Georgia Tech there. Not fouling, bringing a solid double on KK Timpson.
Sydney Johnson's at the point guard spot right now. Long three, came up short, and that'll do it for the first quarter of play. 7 lead changes. Florida State up 1 after 1. Buzz is getting involved. Everyone's getting involved today. Should be a fun one this afternoon. She grew up in Espoo, Finland. Her parents originally from Morocco, moved there. She started playing basketball at the age of 13, has a really intriguing background and story. Loves fashion, painting, singing in her off time. Just an incredible mind.
Gifted, I think that's the word. To speak 6 languages and then also cross someone up like she just did right there and kick it out to Amaria Gordon for 3. Bajetti to me is one of the X factors for this team. Like I said, when they were on that run, when they beat UNC and Virginia Tech, she was playing out of her mind. So if she can impact the game in a really positive way, the Seminoles are a great team.
How about the timing of that assist to Amaria Gordon there? Perfect timing.
She knew that we were talking about it. That's great.
She heard us. Nice extra touch feed to the corner, and Naredo answers right back to the spot where she loves to shoot it. One of 3 different Spaniards on the Georgia Tech roster with the triple to get the Yellow Jackets back within 1, but all in glass at the opposite end there. Villegas, another Spaniard.
Villegas with a sheepish smile because, if we're being honest, Jason, no shooter is truly happy if they bank in a 3. It did go in, but she's smiling knowing she got a little lucky.
The best smile to have if you're a shooter.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, a fortuitous tip back to Georgia Tech. Florida State, their bench knew they had that rebound. Had 7 lead changes in the opening quarter. Unable to get the roll there was Juan Hernandez. Drive, opposite end, Bajetti denied by Naredo. Trade in some 3s right now, Kelly.
This game has been so back and forth. It feels like when one team does something, the other team does the same thing, and they match each other. And this is what we've seen so far in this second quarter. Villegas, a player off the bench for Florida State, where over 93% of her attempts from the field are from 3, which, Jason, is my kind of player. Love watching her do that, but she can absolutely shoot it for the Noles.
You could shoot it yourself. You still can.
I feel like I was about in the same area of about 90% of my field goal attempts were 3s. Because 3's worth more than 2. It's that simple.
The math works out in your favor, Kelly. Johnson came in tail end of that first quarter, peeking up at the shot clock right now because it's at 5. Morgan well off the mark, contested by Bajetti. We thought she might be matched up against Morgan defensively. Bajetti typically guards a higher leading scorer for the opposing team. Got a travel call here.
Tonie Morgan, one of the players we talked about in our open, the young point guard for Georgia Tech. Only 2 shot attempts so far for the Yellow Jackets. FSU doing a good job on her. Tonie Morgan and Ta'Niya Latson, same age, both high school class of 2022. Ta'Niya Latson was the 14th ranked player in that class, and Tonie Morgan the 24th ranked player. So 2 big-time players from just 2 high school classes ago going up against each other today.
Tonie Morgan, 5 in the gray for Georgia Tech. She was offered by Florida State, a Tallahassee native. Opted, of course, to go to Georgia Tech. Now Bajetti perusing as Villegas, who called glass on that 3 a couple of possessions ago, turned it over. Steal there from Johnson, up ahead. Can Georgia Tech turn this into a transition bucket? Florida State did a wonderful job to get back on defense. Into the lane, unable to finish there was Morgan.
Florida State does not turn the ball over much, only 11 per game. So when they do, you have to take advantage if you're Georgia Tech.
Definitely a better start today for Florida State than they had last time out against Duke.
That right there is a coach's dream. When everybody boxes out and the ball hits the floor before you grab it for the defensive rebound, I know that had to make Nell Fortner happy. She's focused on the game right now, but when she watches that in film, she's going to love that play.
That is one of those intricate details of rebounding that is executed to perfection. Dunn, she's hit one of those earlier and got another one to go.
Kara Dunn has taken her game to a completely different level this season. When we asked her coaches about it, they said she worked so hard in the offseason, was always in the gym, had a mindset shift. She's one of the best athletes that they've ever seen in their program, but you can tell she's worked a lot on her game.
The pickpocket from Naredo and the finish for Tonie Morgan.
Great pass by Naredo and a good job by Tonie Morgan to run, make herself available for her teammate.
What a steal that was from Naredo. Just one-on-one. And you get a foul called here. I believe they got Dunn. Show you that Morgan bucket again off the run.
The back and forth continues in this game. Tough shot by Kara Dunn. The scouting report last year would not have indicated that she could do that. She's changed her game. And then Tonie Morgan out in transition, getting going for the Yellow Jackets.
They've turned Florida State over a few times in the last few possessions. Alexis Tucker at the free throw line for Florida State. California native, grad student. Came over from UC Santa Barbara. Was at Texas Tech before that. Transferred to her home state. And now third stop of her career at Florida State. Georgia Tech shooting 39% from the field early on. Just 1 of 8 from long distance.
And Bajetti guarding Tonie Morgan, as you mentioned earlier, Jason. She generally guards the other team's best player, so watch that matchup.
Johnson had time to set her feet, and the result is a made three.
Coach Fortner said she really liked what she's been seeing from Sydney Johnson. She's only averaging 2 points per game, but is very capable. And of course, Coach knows her team, and that's what we're seeing from Johnson today.
Ta'Niya Latson doing what she does best, getting downhill to the rim. Drew a foul. Georgia Tech, by the way, actually up 24-23 after that last triple in the corner from Sydney Johnson. So a 1-point lead for Georgia Tech when we come back. Kara Dunn and Tonie Morgan, 2 players that have significantly improved from last season to this year, taking some big jumps. Those are the numbers from last season. Tonie Morgan this year averaging about 14 points per game. Kara Dunn in ACC play, she's up just under 18 points per game. What have you liked about those two going from year 1 to year 2?
Everything, Jason. They've improved so much. We saw the glimpses last year. Last year was a tough year for Georgia Tech. Only 4 ACC wins. They already have 4 this year, but this is what players are supposed to do. Take that jump from freshman year to sophomore year. I think you're seeing more confidence. I think you're seeing Kara Dunn's range expand and Tonie Morgan understand the game a little bit more. I just enjoy seeing players stick with the program and get better, and that's what we're seeing from those 2.
Tonie Morgan just naturally as a guard, that understanding of the game, in the words of her coach, have gone up so much. And she has a tough task defensively today with Latson continuously driving right at those guards.
Naredo is a good defender, and she did everything she possibly could, but Latson just went right by her because that's what Ta'Niya Latson can do. And overall, I think Georgia Tech's done a really good job on Florida State defensively in this first half, but there are some buckets that Latson is just going to get.
That's kind of what Nell Fortner told us. Sometimes it looks like it should be an accident that it went in or something crazy, but it's not, because That is what she does consistently, and right now she's the only player in double figures with 10 points.
And 4 of 5 from the free throw line.
Yeah.
That's another thing that she does. Already has shot 3 more free throws than Georgia Tech has.
Latson had 15 points in the loss to Duke, was kind of maybe the lone bright spot offensively in that one. Another corner 3 is open for Georgia Tech. Morgan couldn't drain it. Latson lost it. Here's Morgan on the move. In transition, Tonie Morgan all the way to the rim.
What a finish by Tonie Morgan. And notice the patience that she attacked with. She wasn't out of control. She looked for the opening that she could take. Great job by Morgan.
Latson kicks 3 in the corner from Turnage.
That's what they need from Turnage. Turnage is a great defender, and she can make threes on the other end. She's plus 45. This was in Florida State's notes. She's plus 45 when she's on the floor in ACC play. Florida State's plus 45 in point differential, which is a big deal for Turnage and what she brings to this team.
3 at the opposite end, and an answer from Sydney Johnson, her second triple. 1-point game.
Back and forth we go. What a game so far here in Atlanta.
That's how we like it, Kelly. Latson the drive. Rebound vacuumed in by Termise. Termise getting more playing time today with the absence of Blackshear due to the injury. Get a whistle call on the baseline down there.
Turnage hits this 3 for Florida State. They help off of her trying to stop Latson, and she makes Georgia Tech pay. And then on the other end, it's Sydney Johnson, the 5th-year player transfer from Boston University, coming into the game, averaging 2 points per game, and she's already making her presence known in this one.
Kelly, they're starting to trade buckets now. Nice play drawn up on the baseline there. Naredo cashed in on the jumper. Bajetti started to get going earlier, takes the 3 and makes the 3.
You know what I love about Sarah Bajetti? She holds that follow-through longer than any player in the ACC, maybe the country. If she makes a 3 in your face, you're going to know it.
Oh, what a block down low there from Timpson. Saw the cut and used a long arm, sneaking up from behind.
There's a reason why Michaela Timpson leads the ACC in blocked shots. She's so long. She got beat on the backdoor cut, but recovered. That is such a great play by Michaela Timpson. There aren't many centers that could recover that quickly on a backdoor cut and get the block.
Talk about not giving up on a play. Janice with the bounce pass. And a nice finish in traffic there. Down low from Deasia Thomas-Harris. And a little slow to get up is Timpson, who's trying to rotate over again. See, she is kind of hobbling her way over to the Seminoles bench. Hope she's okay. Meanwhile, Kyle White will check in for her in the meantime.
She's limping a little bit. Probably going to get looked at by the trainer. It's a tough situation for FSU, assuming she'll sit out until the half at this point. Zakiya White's got to play some big minutes here.
We've had 11 lead changes. We're tied up at 33. And a fun first half between two teams in need of a win, hungry for a win. Late stages in the month of January, trying to breed some momentum into February. Morgan, extra pass. Naredo's been hot. At a point in the season where you're in a slump, but you don't want to have those slumps when you get into February, and of course not in March. Trying to dig their way out of it. Florida State coming off their worst loss of the season to Duke. Have lost 3 straight conference games. Another steal from this Georgia Tech team. Morgan, nice move, but they get a travel.
Tonie Morgan pleading her case. I think one of the biggest stories of this first half has been Sydney Johnson for Georgia Tech. 6 points for her, 10 minutes, had the steal there. She has really made her mark in this first half with Rusta Agustinate in foul trouble on the bench. She's been vital for the Jackets.
You've loved the Yellow Jackets defense. They get another steal, another extra pass. Shooter's roll wouldn't quite go there for Termise. Now here's Latson trying to slow down this Georgia Tech defensive momentum. Meanwhile, we're still tied because Georgia Tech hasn't quite been able to capitalize off their last couple of forced turnovers. So now Sydney Johnson, you've loved her work in the first half. She says, let's slow things down a bit.
And one of the reasons Georgia Tech's been so successful defensively is they're only sending one, sometimes none, to the offensive glass. They're sending everybody back, and they've done a great job of preventing FSU from getting out in transition. FSU gets that rebound. 4 gray jerseys are already beyond half court, and that's been the key to Georgia Tech's defensive success in this first half.
Yeah, you look up, and they're already set up defensively against the Florida State team that wants to run. Shot clock's off, though, so they'll play for the final possession of the opening half. Trying to break this tie. That was deflected. 2 seconds for Johnson. Got it off in time. Oh, we're going to be knotted up going into the locker room.
Ta'Niya Latson doing her thing. It's 0-0 heading into the second half, Jason.
Neither team scored over the last couple of minutes. It's 33 apiece. Florida State, Georgia Tech, giving us all we wished for on this Sunday afternoon. We'll send it to the crew in the studio on the other side. 33 apiece here in Atlanta. 10 Florida State turnovers. A lot of them came towards the tail end of the half. See how Brooke Wyckoff and the Seminole group adjust. And off we go in the second half. If it's as fun as the first half, then we're in store for a good finish. Got a travel call to begin this one. No Michaela Timpson on the floor right now to begin the second half for Florida State. She hobbled off the floor late stages opening half. And right now it's Sakiah White beginning the second half for the Seminoles.
Massive loss for Florida State, their second leading scorer, one of the best rebounders and shot blockers in the ACC, but Sakiah White is going to have to step up for Florida State. Saw Coach Wyckoff talking to her at halftime saying, I'm assuming, I did not hear the conversation, but saying, you got to get ready, you're going to have to play a lot of minutes in the second half.
The bucket there from Latson. At the opposite end, Dunn trying to answer. A reminder that in the front court side for Georgia Tech, if you joined us late, Kayla Blackshear, who had started every game this season, is out for them with an injury. So it was Rusna Augustinaita who entered the starting lineup today. She had already made 15 starts this season, so had experience doing that, freshman from Lithuania. Late shot clock situation and an offensive foul called on Florida State.
Really good job by Naredo setting her feet. Because Florida State is such a dribble drive offense, that's something you can do. You can take charges on this team because they want to get downhill and they want to get to the rim. Georgia Tech, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think they took a single charge in the first half, but a good job setting that one up there.
No, you're right. Georgia Tech team at 13-7, coming off an 18-point loss to Virginia Tech. They didn't give up in that game, just got outplayed. 3 from Augustinaita off the mark. Florida State won the first matchup between these teams this season, 95-80 in Tallahassee. Georgia Tech in search of some revenge. Latson was on defense in the backcourt there.
And FSU needs to get Omaria Gordon going in this third quarter. She started off the first quarter on fire and then wasn't heard from much in the second quarter, had 8 points early on in this game.
She's their second leading scorer on the season, 14 points per game, Gordon. Naredo, nice late feed to the corner, turned into 3 there for Dunn.
One of the reasons why Kara Dunn is one of the most improved players in this league is her 3-point shot. Coach Fortner said she worked tirelessly on it in this offseason.
Quick answer. We know the Seminoles like to move in a hurry. Got to keep your head on a swivel, and that was one emphasis at the Georgia Tech shoot-around. You have to find who you're guarding after a made bucket. Augustinaita rattles down in 30.
Blowing a kiss to the crowd, Augustinaita, who was in foul trouble in that first half. It can be tough as a shooter, Jason, to sit for so long in the first half, but looks like it is not bothering her so far in the second half.
Rusna Gustanida had a 30-point game against Florida earlier this season. Again, just a freshman. She was so locked in that performance. Meanwhile, an and one at the opposite end from White, who at the moment is stepping in for Michaela Timpson and doing a great job.
Sakia White, basically Michaela Timpson's backup. Let's call it what it is, but stepping up when her team needs her. Grabs that rebound in between two Yellow Jackets and then finishes with contact. You love to see it for a player like Sakia White, who's playing behind Timpson, one of the best post players in the league, and making her mark on this game.
Sakia White, a former Atlantic Sun Freshman of the Year at North Alabama, then went to the JUCO. Jones College, was a JUCO All-American, stepping into a larger role than maybe she anticipated in the second half. 39-39. Once again, another broken tie and another lead change. 15 lead changes in this one.
You're seeing two of the best young point guards in the game with Ta'Niya Latson and Tonie Morgan in this matchup.
And a lot of fun guards in the ACC. Two of them on display today. Foul called here.
Take a look at this finish by Tonie Morgan. Under the rim, one hand, barely even saw the basket. She just knew where the basket was. She just had that presence of mind. What a play.
Again, Morgan, that ball went off her hand, so it'll go back to Florida State. A Tallahassee native, was offered by Florida State, recruited by Florida State. Of course, went to Georgia Tech. She had 26 points in that loss to Virginia Tech last time out. And now she can get the ball and get going up the floor.
And some of that, I believe, for Tonie Morgan was Ta'Niya Latson was committed to Florida State. So
same class.
They play the same position, very similar game, so chose Georgia Tech. But Coach Wyckoff said she knows the Morgan family. They're a great family. She'll still see them around Tallahassee and see Tonie Morgan around Tallahassee when she's home.
Nice series of moves at that opposite end from Deasia Thomas-Harris. Georgia Tech up 4. Pagetti, it has been answer after answer for these two teams today.
And it's not like the teams are playing poor defense. I think both these teams have played pretty good defense. They're just making shots, which is what you love to see as a fan of the game.
That's what we love about this league. You got some shot makers in this league. Tonie Morgan is one of them. 57th all-time meeting between these two teams. Florida State has had the upper hand of late, 4 straight wins in the series history. You can feel how much Georgia Tech wants that sentence to no longer be said. Five on the shot clock. You wanted to see Gordon get going. There it is.
They need that second punch when Ta'Niya Latson is being face guarded and when she can't find something on a possession. They need Gordon, and she provided there.
Georgia Tech has made their last 5 field goals at this end. This should stay here. It will. Every Thursday, we'll have a women's basketball doubleheader for you right here on ACC Network and the ESPN app. This week, we'll have 2 great rivalry matchups. What's better than a rivalry? Number 19, Virginia Tech hosts Virginia at 6 Eastern. Then at 8, number 20, North Carolina hosts 7th-ranked NC State. Those should be 2 fun matchups. Meanwhile, Georgia Tech continues that theme of now 6 straight made field goals on this end. Quick drive, Pagetti back to a 2-point game.
I'm not sure how we would measure the speed of someone's first step, but if you took the first steps of Pagetti, Latson, and Gordon on this FSU team, I'm not sure you could find a set of guards on another team in the country with quicker collective first steps. If that makes sense, Jason. I hope I'm making sense here. Unbelievable, the talent on that team.
Sliding your feet, easier said than done against these Florida State guards. 2-point game, 4:29 to go in the third. Alumni game day here at Georgia Tech. Going back as far as the 1970s up until 2010s. A lot of former players back in Atlanta today, and really cool to see that. Their team up 2 with 4.5 to go in the third. Mel Fortner's group without Kayla Blackshear today. We still have not seen Michaela Timpson come back in since hobbling off the floor late first half for Florida State. She had 20 points in the first meeting. Blackshear had 22 in the first meeting. And right now it feels like, Kelly, it's getting easier as a result for Georgia Tech in the paint.
It is. Michaela Timpson, she leads the ACC in blocks. She's a great defender inside, and we're just seeing her run to the scorer's table, so she's coming back in, which should be a difference maker here for Florida State. But it feels like Georgia Tech, who's made all 7 of their most recent field goal attempts, is getting what they want in the paint right now.
Yeah, it seems like we were on the same page there with the Florida State staff. 4:28 to go in this third quarter. They make that sub. Timpson back in. We'll see how that affects this game. A drive, and Latson couldn't quite get the roll.
A rare miss for Ta'Niya Latson. If there's one thing you want to do against Latson, it is force her left, and specifically try to make her finish with her left around the rim. She's still very good, but not excellent like she is with her right.
Ta'Niya has seen so much of her potential in this freshman year, shooting 37% from 3. She hit 3 triples last time out in a 17-point outing against Virginia Tech.
She can be an X factor for this Georgia Tech team. They missed her when she was in foul trouble in the first half.
That's what Florida State had missed over the last few possessions. Timpson back in and promptly making an impact.
Her rebounding and her defense. She does score it, of course, but those are the 2 most valuable things that Timpson brings.
Dunn hit one earlier. Long rebound, tapped back out. I'm not sure if that hit the rim. Don't believe it did. Nonetheless, it's a Florida State rebound. They wanted to take it in there, got a little overambitious. 2-on-1 the other way. Oh, what an interception there from Latson. Now back to the way, takes it herself, drops it off, and Timpson finishes. What a transition back and forth, and a much-needed bucket for the Seminoles, trying to snap a 3-game losing streak on the road.
Great pass and decision by Ta'Niya Latson, making Georgia Tech pay for that turnover.
How about the athletic interception into the opposite end, the dish off. Dunn couldn't hit. Rebound from Bonner. And now Florida State can get set up. Oh, another nice drive, and this time an easier finish from Latson.
One thing I love that FSU does is they set a screen where really the screener is just screening the back of Latson's defender, so Latson can go left or right using that screen, and it is so difficult to guard Latson when you're not sure if she's going to use the screen left or right.
It's been quick answer after quick answer. This time Dunn comes right back. She's had an excellent game today, now up to 18 points on 8 of 13 from the field.
Kara Dunn has been excellent, so efficient, shooting the ball really well from all over the floor.
Been an offensive exhibition today. Latson from the outside. Who did this go off of? It is off of Georgia Tech. Under 2 to go. Just a breakneck pace in this one. Who's going to miss first?
Really is a breakneck pace. I think you're seeing a little fatigue on both sides just because this game has been so back and forth. We've had very few dead balls in this basketball game. The refs, we love the refs. They're not really needed. We haven't even needed them that much, Jason.
We haven't heard the whistles very often.
Which I like. It's been such an enjoyable game to watch.
Do you change a whistle from game to game? Or this game, I feel like you wouldn't need a new whistle if you did. I don't, it's a conversation for another day. Random thoughts popping into my mind.
I don't know how refs do their job at all. I think it'd be the hardest job in the world. So I've truly never thought about the inner workings of what a ref would do with their whistle.
The inner workings of a whistle. Conversations we get into on a Sunday afternoon. 4 points separating these two teams. Approaching the final 60 seconds of the third quarter. Bajetti. And that went off. Kind of an inopportune positioning from Ta'Niya going for the board, and stick with Florida State here.
This is a big minute for FSU as Coach Wyckoff is giving Ta'Niya Latson a breather right now. Rare time where Latson is on the bench, but you have 1 minute till the third quarter, hoping you can get Latson some extended rest and get to this fourth quarter where I'm assuming she'll play all 10 minutes. But FSU has to find a way to not lose this last minute with Latson on the bench.
Travel called on Timpson.
Timpson still doesn't look 100%. I feel like she's playing through some sort of pain from that injury in the second quarter.
Like you said, they really need her presence down low defensively. They put her back in after Georgia Tech got off to a really hot start in the interior in this third quarter. Laredo kicks it out. Augusta couldn't connect. And the Atlanta native Turnage with the rebound back in her home state. And Bajetti will dribble it up the floor. Bajetti, native of Espoo, Finland. 6 seconds separating game clock and shot clock. Turnage. Timpson, again, that's where her presence is so felt. 13 seconds to go in the quarter. Shot clock is off for Georgia Tech.
That would have been a huge three for FSU. Missed opportunity.
Augusta was blocked. Still 2 seconds. Don't get the shot off, and it'll be a 4-point game heading to the fourth. Both teams got off to red-hot starts to the third. Then, as Kelly noted, maybe the
hitting some jumpers as well. She has made a three, excuse me. She's done it all, and that was something that Coach Nell Fortner was talking about with her expanding her range, showing that she can shoot it from beyond the arc, which makes her so hard to guard at the 4 position. And she is truly one of the most improved players in the league. There's no doubt about that.
Her year 1 to year 2 jump, 9 points per game up to 16.2 a game. Even higher in conference play.
And just a sophomore. She is only a sophomore for this team, as is Tonie Morgan.
What a fade there. Omaria Gordon on the opposite end for Florida State. Brings them within 2.
Well, 2-3 zone action here for FSU, switching it up out of that quarter break.
What do you think about that?
I like it. I like switching it up and showing something else to Georgia Tech. I think they missed a travel inside. But you still got to stay in front of players when they penetrate for Georgia Tech.
The zone looks good there, but Georgia Tech gets bailed out with the foul call. And Tonie Morgan should have free throws coming up here.
I don't think it's something that Florida State will stick with for the whole fourth quarter, but I always like coming out of a timeout break specifically to throw it out, throw something different out there defensively, just keep the other team on their toes.
Our gymnastics meet right here on ACC Network and the ESPN app. This is Friday night. Friday Night Heights. NC State squares off against number 24 Clemson at Little John Coliseum. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern. Presented by Food Lion. Step back. Oh, it hung up there for a while, out of bounds.
By the way, proud Clemson grad here. Clemson just started their gymnastics program like yesterday, and they're ranked 24th in the country. That's pretty crazy. Yeah. I know you're a gymnastics
Happy
guru,
to be bringing
Jason.
the people ACC gymnastics this year. Let's see, this basketball will stay at this end.
Florida State's got to grab that rebound. Every possession matters in this fourth quarter. We've talked about it all game. These two teams so familiar with each other, already played a month ago. It comes down to the little things, and it comes down to execution in the fourth quarter.
Morgan got fouled there.
That is already 2 fouls on Florida State in this quarter. Neither team's been near the bonus in any quarter so far, but that's 2 quick fouls on FSU in this fourth quarter, so keep an eye on that.
Latson coming right at you. It's like a blur in transition. You know it's coming, but you can't stop it.
That's exactly right, Jason. That's the perfect way to put it. She can get to the rim. You know she wants to get to the rim, and you can't stop her from getting to the rim. That is the problem that Ta'Niya Latson presents for every opposing defense, and she is such a good finisher around the basket.
You could see her eyes start to get wide as she hit about half court, and you just kind of knew it was going to happen. 1 point game. We have had 14 lead changes today. Ball movement's been good on this possession for Georgia Tech, and it turned into 2 for Naredo.
What a shot by Naredo. She has played really well today for the Jackets.
There was a heavy screen the opposite way from Gordon, and she got called for a foul. Gordon, a Florida native, has been guarding Morgan, another Florida native. Here's that last bucket and ball movement.
This is such a tough shot. This is good defense. Villegas runs her off the three-point line, and Naredo says, okay, I'll take that one dribble pull-up. Still a really tough knockdown.
That's the voice of Kelly Gramlich. Jason Ross Jr. with you here at Georgia Tech. 2 teams in need of a win. Florida State's lost 3 in a row. Georgia Tech coming off a loss to Virginia Tech. This point of conference play, trying to get back in the win column, kind of in the log jam middle of the conference. How about this ball movement?
FSU still in that zone. I thought they would switch out of it a little earlier. They've stayed with it, and it's worked pretty well. Making Georgia Tech take some tough shots. They've made some of them, but still, I feel like it's thrown off Georgia Tech's rhythm just a little bit offensively.
That an adjustment based on how relatively easily Georgia Tech was getting in the lane early stages, second half?
That, and Georgia Tech is 6 for 23 from beyond the arc in this game, so they've made some, but they haven't been super efficient. So hedging your bets a bit, trying to prevent them from getting to the rim and forcing them to take a few more threes.
Amaria Gordon, one of those ultra-quick first steps on this Florida State team. Found turnage, her 3 strong.
FSU now in a man.
They switch it up, still get the stop.
I still love that, though, because as a player, it is hard when a team plays zone for a couple possessions in a row and then they switch to man. It makes you think twice about what you're doing offensively.
They call a kick ball there. I believe ultimately they got a kick ball after a bit of congestion on the baseline. So let's look at it.
We're right by the FSU bench, so I could not see past Brooke Wyckoff to see what was going on in this trap. I think they called a jump ball. They called a jump ball.
Must have been a jump ball through the legs, which you don't.
But possession with the legs.
Yes, which is typically how it happens.
Hey, whatever gets the job done.
Thursday night at 10 Eastern. This is after a women's basketball doubleheader. The Nothing But Net crew will break down the night in the ACC with highlights and analysis of every women's game and look ahead at the best matchups on the schedule in the coming week. The coverage you can only find in one place. That's right here on ACC Network. Got the crew for you. It's a great crew. Breaking
Jason,
everything down.
I want to send out my thoughts and prayers to Ivory Latta dealing with snow in Connecticut right now as she is doing our halftime coverage.
Yes.
That's a tough thing for our dear friend Ivory Latta to deal with, so we just want to send some good vibes her way.
Always sending good vibes, especially when there's snow in Connecticut.
She's not built for snow.
Now more free throws coming up. This time, Kara Dunn will go to the free throw line.
We've seen this game tighten up a bit in the fourth quarter from a physicality standpoint and from the officials calling some more fouls. FSU with 4 team fouls. So one more foul, if they commit one more, Georgia Tech will be shooting free throws for the rest of this fourth quarter.
There's Blanche Alverson. It's her birthday today, the assistant coach for Georgia Tech. Happy birthday, Blanche. they were bumping the Taylor Swift this morning at shoot-around because that's Blanche's favorite artist.
Obviously.
Yeah.
As it would be for anybody. Blanche is a Swiftie.
You're a Swiftie.
Of course. Coach Fortner, though, not a Swiftie.
Aerosmith. So, yes, she's more into the Aerosmith. So
she's a Smithy.
Aerosmithy.
Exactly. It's unfortunate. You know, I think there are some people that just are not Swifties, and I respect that choice, but I also think you miss out on a lot.
You do. It's a life that's well-lived. Meanwhile, it's been a life well-lived in the lane for Ta'Niya Latson.
Latson continues to get to the rim at will. She's just so tough to stop.
This is going to be a fun matchup. Morgan and Bajetti in this fourth quarter. Bajetti with a good defense there. She typically locks down opponents' high scores. Latson cruising and finishing. Florida State back in front. Lead change number 16 of the day.
There are not that many players in the country that can finish like that at that angle from what we just saw from Ta'Niya Latson. That is unique, the way she finishes at the rim.
She's got 24 points, and now her team has the ball up 1.
And a miss there from Tonie Morgan, who had a great look inside. Take another look at this finish from Ta'Niya Latson. This is so difficult with the left hand, so her offhand, and then having to float it, bringing the ball out wide, and then floating it over the defense. But just the way she finishes at the rim, it's uncommon.
A Seminoles team that got off to a 5-1 start in ACC play. Kelly, you know it. You're going to have your up and down throughout the course of a season. It's how you weather those storms. On the road, never easy to win. That looks pretty easy down low for Tucker.
Florida State getting some good contributions from all of the roster, from Tucker, Sakaya White. That's what you want to see if you're Coach Wyckoff.
Georgia Tech with a win today would surpass their win total from a season ago, overall and in conference play. Nice extra pass. Couldn't quite cash in on a 3 there, but it was a really good look. Another finish at the rim, and the Florida State bench is up. And that was Sakaya White. You gotta love it, as she has tried to fill in today for Michaela Timpson, who came up hobbling late stages, opening half. They're getting into the lane now, Kelly.
Sarah Bajetti, who speaks 6 different...
Duke Carolina, it always delivers.
Got to get your popcorn ready for that one. Duke and Carolina, always a blast. Meanwhile here, we've had a blast. 5 points separating Florida State and Georgia Tech with 5 minutes to go. Florida State on an 8-0 run, though, right now.
Michaela Timpson has come back in this game in the second half. She's on the bench right now, but thanks to our stats man, Sanders Sullivan, Florida State, as they continue to score in the paint, they have outscored Georgia Tech 18-0, now 20-0 in the paint since Michaela Timpson came back in the game. Her defense has been huge for FSU in the second half.
That is a crazy stat, 20-0. It's a substitution that took place in this half, not that long ago. In the paint. Augusta Naida. Can Georgia Tech find an answer? They can't. Florida State switched around their defense a little bit too. Pull up 3, Bajetti. Oh, that would have been big.
That would have almost felt like a dagger.
Yeah.
But quick shot, you missed the shot. Give the ball back to Georgia Tech. It's the risk you take with those quick shots.
That snapped a skid of having missed their last 6 field goals. Laredo with a huge bucket for the Yellow Jackets. Georgia Tech, you've got Florida State in the half court, but Latson still got in the lane somehow. Sydney Johnson the rebound. That's a little slow to get up. Georgia Tech might have some numbers. Laredo notices it. And they couldn't get 2 out of it, but a second chance for Dunn. Again, couldn't finish. It was was almost like Georgia Tech wanted to take their time there, but then realized and had to make an audible of how quickly they wanted to go. Couldn't quite finish up. It's 5 points still, though, and 2 possessions separating these teams with 3:39 to go in what has been a really fun game. From Michaela Timpson.
How about a big bow block from Michaela Timpson? And the moment for Timpson is the block, but also her defensive presence in the second half for Florida State. It has been very difficult for Georgia Tech to score in the paint since Timpson's come back on the floor.
When she re-entered the game, it was 20-0. Points in the paint favored Florida State after her reinsertion into this basketball game. They get another offensive board here. Now going to their set. Bajetti around and down. Got that one off the mark, and now the other way, a foul called. Had time to set her feet, but just couldn't quite get it to drop.
This is what I've been alluding to in this fourth quarter. That's the 5th team foul on Florida State. So now Georgia Tech shooting free throws with every foul Florida State commits. That's what you want if you're the Yellow Jackets. That's the perfect way to get back in this game.
Tonie Morgan knocks down that first free throw. And Tuesday, ACC Network men's basketball doubleheader. Syracuse and Boston College at 7 Eastern, then Clemson hosting Louisville at Little John Coliseum at 9 Eastern. 3 minutes to go, a 3-point game.
Now Georgia Tech has dropped back into a zone. Love the chess match we've had in this game.
Who can play the right piece in the chess match? Board hauled in by Timpson. Once again, continuing her reign in the paint.
One of the drawbacks of a 2-3 zone is it can be harder to rebound because you don't have a specific man that you're supposed to box out, and Timpson taking advantage of that.
5 seconds to work with for the Seminoles. Latson notices it, gets into the paint, came up short. Board tapped around into Georgia Tech hands. Dunn has had an excellent game, sneaks into the paint, and they got a travel call.
Timpson's presence. A lot of that had to do with Michaela Timpson's presence inside. When you attack the paint and she's in there, you have to think twice because of the prolific shot blocker that she is.
Maria Gordon getting the directions from the Florida State sideline. Still plenty of time to work with for Latson, who has 26 points today. Oh, what a shot, as it was starting to get down inside of 10 seconds of the shot clock from Alexis Tucker.
Big time shot from Alexis Tucker. They're keeping her in for her shooting ability at that high post, and she delivers.
90 seconds to go here for Georgia Tech. The freshman, Augustinaida, couldn't hit. Georgia Tech, it feels like you really, really need a stop right here, right now.
Absolutely necessary to get a stop on this possession for the Jackets.
Tucker, you said they brought her in for a shooting, but couldn't get that one to go. He's going to stick with Florida State, so that is a big deflection to keep it at this end. They may take a look at this, Kelly, and they should. Under 2 minutes to go. Let's see who this went off of.
They definitely should. You want to get every call right, but especially in the final 2 minutes when every possession is so important as Georgia Tech tries to stay within striking distance. But Florida State's been so good on the offensive glass, and they're going to say the ball stays with FSU. Can we just appreciate these officials looking at that so quickly?
Yeah, it was
come on.
Denise Brooks, who went over.
Great work.
Yeah.
Keep the game moving. That's what we love to see.
Final minute. Georgia Tech doesn't have to foul yet, but they certainly need a stop, a must-stop defensive possession. Latson ran into a wall. Tucker fading. Rebound up for grabs. Morgan has it quick. Timeout for Georgia Tech. They've still got 2 left after this timeout. If you're Georgia Tech, what are you looking for on this next possession?
Well, plenty of time. Plenty of time for Georgia Tech. And when you're in the situation that Georgia Tech is, you're down 5, 44 seconds to go. One of the main things that I'm looking to do if I'm Georgia Tech is extend this game as long as possible, right? Keep your options open. Make Florida State make mistakes. So you don't need a 3 here. I think you need a quick bucket. You want to get something going to the rim, and you want to get going quickly. You don't want to use all 30 seconds of the shot clock, obviously, but do not need a 3. I would get the ball in Tonie Morgan's hands, let her attack, maybe involve Kara Dunn in a ball screen, or at least get Kara Dunn in there for an offensive rebound. But let Tonie Morgan go to work, and no need to force anything. Don't take a bad shot, but also need to move quickly on this offensive possession.
Florida State defensively, flip it over to them. What are you looking at from them on the defensive end?
Again, I'm not paid the bucks that these coaches are, right? But I would stay in the zone if I'm Florida State. It has worked really well in this 4th quarter. You've been able to limit Georgia Tech. They've seemed uncomfortable. They've only scored 9 points in this 4th quarter. I would stay in it. And if they make a 3, okay, it's going to be a tough contested 3. And of course, you still have the lead. But I would stick with that zone. It seems to have bothered the Yellow Jackets.
That felt like the pivotal adjustment from Bert Wyckoff and the Florida State staff. See Kara Dunn in this 4th quarter. That's really been since Michaela Timpson checked back into the game. Quick foul called on Florida State.
And FSU in man-to-man there. And part of that, I think when you're in man-to-man, it's just an easier situation for Georgia Tech to attack right away, which is what Tonie Morgan did. That's so smart. You get to the free throw line. Florida State's in the bonus. Heads-up play by Tonie Morgan to get that ball, realize they're in man, and get downhill to the rim to draw a foul.
Morgan on the season, just about a 60% free throw shooter. Went 0 for 2. And it was a pivotal 0 for 2 with 42.6 to go in the 4th quarter.
Brutal misses from the free throw line for Georgia Tech. This team only shoots 68% as a team. And here's the thing. When Georgia Tech lost to Florida State a month ago, they missed 10 free throws in that game. So the missed free throws here, costly, of course, for Georgia Tech. And now FSU, they called timeout. They're going to advance the ball. If you're Georgia Tech, I think you trap once and then you have to foul. And you got to be selective with who you foul. A lot of great free throw shooters on this team. The 3 guards for FSU all shoot over 77% from free throw line.
Florida State, and over the course of this 3-game losing streak that they're in, last one coming to Duke, trying to turn it around after what was a 42-point loss on the road. Hard to believe for this group that's ranked number 23 in the country, got off to a 5-1 start in ACC play. But you have those ups and downs, as we talked about, and they're now in the bonus and trying to ice what feels like a much-needed win. I don't know if the word desperation is thrown around amongst them, but it's a win that needed to happen.
They played like a desperate team.
They did.
And that's what Coach Wyckoff wanted to see from this team. It's not like they're in danger of falling out of the NCAA tournament or anything crazy like that, but This is a team that has the aspirations of winning the ACC. So to either win the regular season or the ACC tournament, this was a game you had to win.
Coach Wyckoff's family is here today. They're hoping for a clean closeout, but still much crazier things have happened. And Georgia Tech has knocked down the threes in this second half. 39.8 to go. You see the upcoming schedule. That Miami team beat Duke earlier today, 64-58. Then you go to Pitt after that in-state matchup. Tough Notre Dame team. Don't get a day off in the ACC.
You really don't. Right now, the ACC is projected to get 9 teams in the NCAA tournament. Georgia Tech and Florida State both in the tournament as of now. I know it's early, but to me, it's never too early to talk bracketology. This league is just brutal. There is never an easy night in the ACC. And again, for Georgia Tech here, I do not think you need a 3. I think you have enough time where you can go to the rim, attack, try to get to the free throw line, but you can't do that.
Might be a game-sealing steal and finish for Ta'Niya Latson to extend the lead to 8. And fittingly, the player who's averaging 30 points per game against Georgia Tech the last 3 times she faced him, that gives her 29 points on the day.
What a play by one of the best players in the country, Ta'Niya Latson. She just makes plays when Florida State needs her to. She's made free throws down the stretch. She's gotten to the rim. And then look at the speed here, the closing speed. That pass looks open, and it probably is open versus most defenders, but not against Ta'Niya Latson with her quickness and her vision to go get that ball. What a play by Latson. And if you're Georgia Tech, I think at this point you probably need a 3. I've been saying you don't for the last couple possessions, but in this situation, I would look for a 3 and then crash the offensive glass.
The clutch players come up in the clutch moments. Latson has 13 fourth-quarter points. Augusta Nida couldn't get that 3 that they were looking for, and now another foul. Free throws coming up. Did they get a timeout first? Well, it was an interesting timing for it. So you wonder what this conversation is about right now.
FSU called a timeout?
That seems like it would be backwards. But that's what they're, so we're being Florida State called the timeout. And it appeared as though there was something that Brooke Wyckoff did not like, some sort of miscommunication.
I believe what she's upset about is they're penalizing FSU because Gordon dribbled, and so they can't advance the ball.
Yes.
And that's what she was upset about. Because if you take a dribble, then your ability to advance the ball with a timeout goes away.
Trap in the corner, and they're going to review it.
If you're Georgia Tech, just make the game last as long as possible. Crazier things have happened. Of course, if Tonie Morgan had made those free throws, this would be a little bit of a different situation.
That would have made it a 3.
Exactly.
Again,
and
yep.
The free throws have haunted Georgia Tech. I know they're 8 for 11 today. That's not bad at all. But those 2 misses by Tonie Morgan were tough. That looks like it's off Ta'Niya Latson.
It is very close, yeah.
It was a good trap by Georgia Tech. Great defense in the corner there.
Nell Fortner going over the situation with her group of what to do if you have it or if you are on defense here.
And Georgia Tech is out of timeouts. That's something to keep an eye on as well. So this is big. They're almost getting a timeout because the officials are reviewing this, which is vitally important for Georgia Tech to be able to talk about it.
It's a great point.
They just said it's FSU ball. Wow.
So it will stick with FSU.
So then FSU calls a timeout, so now they can advance the ball. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
This is the situation they originally wanted, essentially.
Yes, it is.
Took a second to get there.
Exactly
it was a
right.
circuitous route to take, but they got there.
And FSU presents such a problem in late game situations because they have great free throw shooters at the guard position. There really isn't a guard that you're willing to foul in this situation.
They get it into Latson. She shoots 85% from the free throw line. And today she has been efficient as you can possibly be.
She's put so much pressure on this Georgia Tech defense, getting to the rim, finishing with all sorts of crazy finishes, somehow finding a way to score. Has been great at the free throw line. Also has 6 rebounds and 5 assists. This steal was massive for Florida State, taking a lot of the air out of the balloon for Georgia Tech.
Again, going back to those numbers that you mentioned in the open, Kelly, they played out again today. She's got 29 points against a team that she seems to love playing against.
There's something about Georgia Tech.
Yeah, something about it. You ever have a gym or an opponent where you know you're going to have confidence?
You know, that's interesting. I think there is an element to that. She's familiar with Georgia Tech, but she plays like this against almost everybody.
That's very true, too.
I don't know if there was one team that I specifically loved playing against. Any team that played a zone. That's what I like, Jim.
Here's your,
That's
your spots to shoot.
Every shooter gets excited when the other team shows up in the zone.
You think about her in an ACC tournament scenario or NCAA tournament scenario, it's knowing you always have a player who is going to give your team a significant offensive advantage.
And Ta'Niya Latson has just set the Florida State record for 30-point games. That's her 12th 30-point game. She's a sophomore. That's what's so crazy about what Ta'Niya Latson is doing at FSU. She's been so prolific, and she is just a sophomore. She's got 2 more seasons plus the rest of this season at Florida State and has already set so many records, including now the 30-point game record.
Miami native continuing to add on to her incredibly impressive resume. Is still, like we said, just a sophomore. Getting better and better by the day. Think about the preseason expectations that were on her. She set the ACC single-season freshman scoring record. It was ACC first team. I mean, the expectations were there, and then there's living up to them, and then there's exceeding them. And she's done both of those things.
And you've watched her all day, Jason. She never loses her cool. She is calm and collected the entire game, which is another reason why she's able to continuously score in those numbers that she puts up, because she just doesn't get rattled, doesn't get phased.
And she put the finishing touches on it with that steal and lay-in. And now, fittingly, Turnage, an Atlanta native, back in her home state, her home city, can go to the free throw line to officially wrap this one up. She won 4 state titles in this state in high school.
I'm sure she's got some family in the stands today.
Yep. Atlanta native drills that first free throw and now trying to give her team a win that feels much needed to snap a 3-game losing streak. They will do that, get back on track, and the Seminoles will head back to the state of Florida to play Miami next. But for now, they can celebrate this one in Atlanta. 78-67. Florida State comes out on top. Made the right adjustments. Kelly, it was a pleasure, my friends, for our outstanding crew here in Atlanta. You guys are phenomenal, doing the great work behind the scenes. For Kelly Gramlich, I'm Jason Ross Jr. Florida State wins it 78-67, getting their 6th ACC win of the season. We'll send it to the studio on the other side.
Thanks, Jason.